All right. Good evening once again. Welcome to Digitech Zeal. This is cyber security session. So I would like to find out if you have gone through. I believe you joined that class live, right? You were in that class. You were in that class
Yeah.
live. Okay. So which means that I am not too sure if we have been making notes while the class is going on, or probably after the class, we do sit down with the videos to acclimatize everything. I don't know whether that has been our
But this, yeah, I've been doing that, but this last one, I've not gone through the videos again because of uh how busy I was this period. But this week now, I will go through it before the next class.
Okay, but that is very important. Okay, so we are still on we started looking at networking
If
fundamentals.
I remember that better.
I highlighted a couple of reasons why in cybersecurity, particularly individuals that are looking forward to learn ethical hacking must understand networking fundamentals. And I told us that ordinarily, this is one skill that will have served as prerequisites for enrolling into this program. So what we are trying to do here is just to try and see how we can catch up with the basic aspects of networking in order for us to understand how our devices communicate within the internet. Don't forget that these devices that communicate within the internet are the devices we are trained to protect. So we need to understand how they actually communicate within the network. All right, I hope you are following. Just a second.
Yes.
All right, so so that is the essence of us going through these very aspects. So like I started by telling you, this is just like a preparatory aspect. We still have few things to also discuss before we even get to the main ethical hacking itself. So after understanding networking fundamentals, we are also expected to understand two scripting languages, such as Born Again Shell, which is Bash, and Python. So after the networking fundamental, we still have to understand the fundamentals of Kali Linux as the operating system we are going to use to perform penetration testing or ethical hacking. Now, because Kali Linux is an operating system which is used or most used for ethical hacking, it's a command line operating system, which means that for you to communicate with it, you have to write code. It's not like normal Microsoft Windows where you just be clicking. You know, Windows has given us a kind of a user graphical interface, and that is why people can easily navigate around it. That is why people can easily navigate around it without writing code. Though the Windows also has its own terminal where individual that learned DOS during the time of DOS can as well communicate with the window through those commands, which is called the command prompts. So, but in Kali Linux, almost every instruction you give is based on a command line. And those commands are written with programming languages called the Bash or the Python. So which means that for you to be able to navigate effectively within the Kali Linux, it is required that you learn two of these scripting languages, because the Kali Linux, when we get there properly in the next class, we are going to find out that it is an operating system that has already built in it most of or all the ethical hacking tools. So for us to be able to exploit those tools and use them for the purpose at which they were created for, we need to understand the languages that were used in developing those tools. And that is why after this networking, we will still run through the basic of Linux, the basic of Kali, Kali Linux rather, and the Bash and Python. All right, so from next week, I think I should be free. I'll give us an update on that so we can decide to have the class maybe some week. We can have it 3 times. So depending on the readiness, because the reason why we streamline this to twice in a week, there are some classes that are even collapsed to only once, because when you call for, it's not a matter of multiplying the days. When you call for the classes, sometimes people hardly show up. So it's as if the days are just wasting. So it's also even helped me. If I have the class 3-4 times and I finish on time, I reschedule that time for another morning. So it is also for what I always like a class that people are learning. Instead of having 100 times in a week and people are not showing up, it's better we have it one solid or 2 solid times. So we'll still discuss probably from next week. We will all agreed on whether to increase it or to leave it like this. All right, so let's quickly dive in. So like I said, we are still talking about networking fundamental. Can you still remember what we describe as network or networking? If you can remember, let me know. So we are still on networking.
Networking is a collection of 2 or more computers or devices to share data, resources, and applications efficiently.
Okay. That is a nice one. So we are looking at networking fundamentals for ethical hacking, which means our reason for learning this is not to set up server cafe for anyone. It is not to network offices. But we are simply understanding this because we know that the internet, which is our singular responsibility to protect, is what made up of collection of networks. And that is why we are looking at it. Now, because of time, I will not be able to run through some of the things we discussed, but I know that in that session, we have solidly established what networking is all about. And then we have also discussed various types of computer network, talk about the local area network. I will also describe their limitation and the advantages. We talk about the WAN, wide area network. We talk about the MAN, metropolitan area network, and then we talk about the PAN, personal area network, and we also broke them down into different use cases. And we'll also talk about networking topology, right? We talk about networking topology. Yeah, we talk where we discuss star topology, we discuss box topology, we discuss what ring topology. Remember, all these were actually what we discussed in the last class. Now, we talk about, I think we also talk about some popularly used networking devices. Some popularly used networking devices. Please, the young man Habib, please, can you simply turn off your video? Your video is fantastic. In fact, it's very good. Please, can you turn it off? Please, to avoid the video distracting us. turn off your video. If it's not going to be stable, please kindly turn off your video. All right, so please, if I notice that it keeps disturbing, I may just turn you off. Please kindly turn off your video. I don't want distraction here. I hope you can hear me. I don't know whether some of you will join Zoom class, you're not here. If you are hearing what I'm saying, I say turn off your video. Please, let's endeavor to turn off your video. Can this young man even hear me? Okay. If you don't know how to do it, you call for assistance. Turn off your video. All right, so I believe you should be able to do what? Okay. All right, so thank you. So we also talk about some networking devices that we need to have knowledge of as cybersecurity expert or as ethical hackers. We talk about switch, and I explained to us the role of a switch for expanding your network. We talk about hub for broadcasting data to all connected devices. We talk about AP, access point, which provide wireless connectivity. We talk about modem, which connects your network to your internet service provider, ISP. All right, we talk about firewall, which filters incoming and outgoing network traffic to block unauthorized access. We talk about IP addressing. I will define IP address as what? Internet protocol address is a unique numerical address assigned to every device on a network. So there is no way you will succeed in learning. There's no way you will succeed in learning ethical hacking without you understanding the concept of IP address. It's very important. So we need to understand that every device that is used to transact within the internet, they all have their unique what? Identity. Just like your mobile phone. Are you telling me that if I dial your number right now, another person will pick it? I know there was a time it was happening in part of this world, but I don't think that is still possible, except maybe there is a voicemail or whatever it is. But ordinarily, all these telephone communication company assign to all of us one number. So that is hard. Now, the essence of giving us those numbers is for us to be identified uniquely and for us to be able to what? To communicate with others within that telecommunication what? Network. So that is how it is. Every ethical hacker must understand that all the devices that you are using, all the devices that you are using to access the internet, they all have their various assigned ID, otherwise known as what? The IP address. I hope we are following. All right, so we discussed that. So we talk about having two types of IP address, where I discuss that once your device is connected to the internet, which is the largest network, it has a generated IP address, which is called the public IP address. So your computer can have two IP addresses depending on the network is connected to. So let's get that right. And I reel out some IP address syntax. One of them I mentioned was the syntax that have 192.168.1.10. All right. So that is the public IP address. Then the private IP address is the one that have 10.0.0.5. So once an IP address starts like that 10.0 instead of 192.168, you know automatically that what that IP address is all right. I hope you can hear me, sir. Sorry about that. I just have to attend.
Yeah.
So we also talk about types of IP address, type of IP address, versions, where I mentioned, I think under the types of, I'm not sure if I go to this label, just help me to check. I just want to make sure that I go back a little bit because we just want to round up this aspect of networking, the basic things we need to understand. Yeah, what I want to conclude in this section. So we talk about the IPv4, and then we talk about IPv6. So we should know that there are two versions of IP address. It's just version. They are all IP address. All right. They are all IP address. Just that one is higher than the other. So these two configurations are always on our system most time. Then it is now left for you to decide the one you want to use. So let me just go off here a little and show us where you can actually check some of these things. Let's say you go to your Windows and then you click on your File Explorer. Then from File Explorer, then target network. Just go to network. So once you click on network, we are having this. Let me just turn this on to allow it to. So let me just turn on what the network configuration. I just want to show us where you can actually view the IP address to know which version your IP address is running. To know which version your IP address is running. So if I right click on this and I select properties, just right click on the network connection and select what property. So right now you can see that I'm on a Wi-Fi network. So if you come here and right click now, or if I click on this just to expand it, you will see the communication. If I select properties, you will now see that IP address that we're talking about. You can see that this is what the Internet Protocol version 4. All right. So in a moment, we are going to understand all these TCP options that we are seeing here. So that is how you can check which type of, there are some systems that the IP address will be what? Version 6. And that is where this information actually what came from, the one I have on the screen before now, the IP4 and the IP5, or sorry, IP6. All right. So so let's quickly look at, I don't know if we have discussed MAC address. I think we have discussed MAC address. Yes, I think that was the last topic we discussed. Right? Please confirm that. I'm very sure that we have discussed MAC address. So our next topic is we are to continue from common. So you can start writing now. Common network protocols. Let's start from there. Common network protocols. Common network protocols. Now, the word protocol here means what? There are defined or set of rules. All right? There are defined or set of rules that determine how these devices communicate on the internet. All right. So these rules were created.
Come again.
I said the protocol means set of defined set of rules. Protocol, the word protocol, or let's say network protocol means what? Defined set of rules that govern or determine how devices communicate on the internet or how information moves from one point to another within the internet space. So all these rules were put in place to ensure security, right? To ensure a kind of a validation so that if things are going the other way around, they can easily be checked. So there are a lot of internet rules, protocols. The word protocol there means what? Rules. If not for these set out rules, a lot of things will have been happening on the internet beyond what you and I know today. So there are rules. So what the black hat hackers are doing is to find ways to compromise those rules so that they can penetrate. And that is why you and I are trained to outsmart them, to understand their ways so that we can put blockage. We can block them left and right so that they do not have access to breaking those rules. All right, so under this, we have the first internet network or common network protocol is the HTTP. That is the first internet network protocol. And what does that mean? The HTTP full meaning is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext. Text transfer protocol. Are we together? Hypertext transfer protocol. So it's a rule. So what is actually the responsibility of this rule? That is what we should know as ethical hackers. What is actually this rule? What does this rule ensure within the internet space? So this rule ensure transfers web pages. Let's say what? Transfers web pages. I'll break it down for you now. Transfers what? Web pages. You know that once you log into the internet, you open a browser. Because the browser in this case, we should also know the role of a browser. If I ask you now, what do you think a browser is as regard to communication within the internet network? Let me even know your perception on that. What is a browser regarding to the internet space communication? What is a browser? Mr. Joshua, if you can hear me. Are you with me?
Okay. Yeah, he said, hello.
Yeah, I'm with you, sir.
So what's a browser? Okay, if I use my own understanding, I'll say a browser is a medium through which we pass to access other informations.
Okay, good. So you have said it all. A medium, which means it's like a vehicle, right? A vehicle.
Yes.
Good. If that's a keyword. It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle because the internet is a word. You know that internet is a word on its own. Very large word, very big word. Now, and this word of internet constitute different resources existing across people's system within their servers. So now you need a vehicle to tap into those resources from those different locations. And that is why you need a browser. That is why you cannot access anything on the internet without going through a browser. Now, this is where we want to connect it to the topic now. The browser send a request to those server. For example, now, if you want to go to MTN website, so long you have your data, your internet, your computer is connected to the internet. I mean, what? That data is just like you just having fuel in that vehicle. But the vehicle can have fuel and still remain where it is. So once you subscribe data, you have added fuel. Then you now need the browser to drive the car. So what the browser will do is that you send the browser an errand based on the address given to it. That is the reason why each time we want to visit a website, what do we type on the browser address allocation bar? We write the website address. And once you miss that address, what happens? You get nothing in what? In return. What you get sometimes could be that page not found or content not available. You get all those funny what messages depending on the browser you are using. So what is playing out there now? You can see that we are cybersecurity or ethical hackers, experts. We need to know all this and beyond those ordinary users. So we should know what is happening at the background each time I type on a browser. Each time I type on a browser, I should know what exactly is happening at the background. So what is happening is that the browser will make a request to a server based on the address specified. That, okay, you are telling me I should go to a certain destination to fetch contents from that destination and display those contents on itself. So the first thing it's going to do is to ask for the content, to send a request to the server. That is the reason why if I have not uploaded my website content to a server, to a host, you cannot go to your browser and begin to what? Ask the browser to send you those content that are still existing locally within my system. I hope I'm making sense here. So that is why the first thing I will do as a web developer is to go and purchase what? A domain. And that domain will give me a storage where I will now upload my content, and those content will be saved in that server with an address. So if I want you to access those content, all I need to do is to give you the address, and then you send a browser using that address. You send a browser using that address to contact where I have uploaded my information. And the server where I have uploaded my information will never release those content until the address you are using is accurate with the name of the folder where those information are stored. And that is why we have another protocol we are going to talk about. We are still discussing network protocol, set of rules that network uses to communicate, to transfer data from one point to another. These are the things we are trying to understand as what? Aspiring what? Ethical hacker. So that when you are sleepy, you know that, oh, if measures are not put in place, somebody can what? Steal your information. Like what I just explained now, if as a web developer, I did not secure that server and somebody tried to access them what? Illegally, the person can what? Take advantage, because there is nothing at the other end that is validating the authenticity of that address. So let's know that once a browser requests and then the server get the information with the right address, the server will have no choice than to give those content to the browser, and the browser will display them to you. And that is why when you search for something and then it display, when you couldn't find it, the browser will tell you that what? Page cannot be found. So whenever you get that message, it means that what? A request was made, but no information was given. Just like a vehicle that you sent to go and bring something from somewhere, and the vehicle returned that I couldn't find what you asked me to go and get for you. Am I communicating? I don't know who is the iPhone. Is it you or Chris?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So we are still discussing this internet protocol. Now let's connect it here. So when I say that the HTTP responsibility is to transfer web pages. So I believe you understand what that means now. So that is why I can log in, I can enter a website. The content in that page will be transferred to my system. And I'll be seeing those content across different pages. So if I may just do a practical of it so that we really understand this, because a good knowledge of this will make you to do better as an ethical hacker. Let me say I open this browser now and I want to make a request. I want to make a request to a particular server to get me content through the browser and the address I'm going to specify. I just hope that the internet should be strong enough for us to quickly verify this. Okay, so now let's say I'm going to Facebook, or let's say I'm going to MTN. Now, the browser is ready for me. The vehicle is ready to travel to wherever I want to send it. So long I provide the address. So it's asking me that, where do you want me to go? Then you now come here and follow one of the rules. So this 3W that you are typing, you are actually obeying the internet protocol that says that the information you are asking for is information that can be accessed worldwide. So that is just the rule that you have just obeyed now. For you to start with those 3W, that is what you mean. Then you now specify the dot. The dot is a period which separates the protocol from the address. So once we have specified the protocol, then you tell the browser where. So I will now say, okay, MTN. And then it will now ask me which domain extension. So .com, which means commercial business, a commercial website, .edu and the rest of them. So once I press enter now, then I've sent a request. Then you see within a speed of light, you can see how this browser traveled to the server where MTN have uploaded their content, where MTN has uploaded their content and return it just because I enter exactly the address. So supposing I make mistake, all right? So supposing I make mistake, let's see, instead of typing MTN, and I type empty. Let's try that so that you see what I'm talking about. Except if this is another person's website, it's going to return no information. So you can see it. This is another person's website. So let me type it again, www.m.com. Just want to enter the one that we not see the content. Fine. So you can see it. So this site cannot be reached. So which means that the address could not get to, as it couldn't get the address. So that is exactly what we are talking about. I hope with that explanation, what I'm trying to explain is clear to you. Can I get a response?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. Now, that is the first protocol. Now, let's look at the second protocol. We're still looking at Internet Network Protocol, the second protocol. And please, before we forget, the particular port, though we're still going to get to ports properly. So for that information to be transferred, for us to see, it must have gone through a port. And the port that HTTP, the port this HTTP uses, because even as we are trying to understand this protocol, we should understand the assigned port to each of these. Which route do they follow? Every information that moves on the internet, they have a port. The port is just like the points where they follow, the path where they follow. So the HTTP that we have discussed before, just to add to it, it uses port 8080. Please take note of that. Because those bad guys, they understand this. You know, a particular example is that when you know the routes someone that you want to attack follows, it is very easy for you to position. So that as soon as the person is coming, you hijack the person. So that is how these bad guys also know that the internet is made up of different highways. Information are flying through different what? Connections. So they know, so they study just like the way we are studying now so that we can apprehend them. They also know, they spend time to also read. So if you think that you are learning this casually, you don't want to deepen your knowledge and you'll be able to catch the tips. It's a lie because they also study very hard. They can spend the whole of their night trying to understand how things work. So that is why you too that want to be used to stop them, you must read, must work hard. And that's the reason why we are giving you all this foundation so that as you are seated, you know, okay, what could be happening? I know what to turn off so that when it's happened, it cannot what break into the company system. So let's quickly look at the next one, which is HTTPS. There's difference between the Internet Network Protocol that does not have the S and the one that have the S. So the HTTPS means what? The Hyperthread Text Transfer Protocol secure. That is what? Security. Hypertext Transfer Protocol secure. That is what it means, which means what? Security. So if I ask you right now, what is the difference between the network protocol HTTP and the one with what? S. The difference is simply that this one is not secure. Not secure. Why this is what? Secured. And that is why when you when we get to the web application penetration testing, you will now understand that when web developers are hosting their websites, some of them, because they don't want to spend money, they will just go and, or maybe the clients have given them huge amount of money and they want to save for profits. Instead of them buying a domain that comes with the security, they will go and buy the one without security. Why some, the clients are the one that will opt for it just because they don't have enough money. But instead of the professional developer to tell them that, I don't want you to go for this because these are the risks attached, they will not, some of them. Because these are the websites that you log into and you will notice that what is not secure because that is the port that is used, that the particular, that website is using to what, to transfer its information. So the port 8080 is not secure. The port what? The port for this one uses, let me also give you an idea of the port. This one uses 443. So the port 443 is secured. So if I may just go back and show you, want to check how do we know, because these are the things that they also learn. So let me show you something. Let me go back there and show you something. That MTN website that we opened, let's open it again and see whether it's secure. So you know how to check if a website is secure. Because these are the things they check. Once they see that there are loopholes, like I always tell my students, you see, it is not every house that the bad guy can break into. No matter how someone is strong as a thief, it's not every house that he can break into. that person takes advantage of vulnerabilities. Sometimes they come and spy and they discover some loopholes that this door is not always locked at night. They will go home and strategize and come. That is how it is also in the internet space that we are trained to protect. So we should know that this bad guy can be, spoofing. We call that spoofing. They can be spoofing across different websites and then looking for the one that have loopholes, and then they will launch attacks. There are some that they will just see a sign that I'm going to show you now. I know that, oh, no go area, no go area. So why don't you put your company in that mode that there should be some protective measure put in place that once they see, it scares them away. Now look at it here. You see this icon. If you click on this icon now, you are going to get what? Connection is what? Secured. That is because what? This particular website, I'm going to ask you now, please unmute and talk back to me, Mr. Joshua. If I ask you now, which port is this website using to transfer its information that make it to have this? Which port?
8080.
No, it's not 8080.
Which one? This one? This MTN one?
Yes.
It's not HTTP.
Yes, it's HTTPS. And I told you that HTTP without
because it's secured, yes.
Good. That is the one that have what? S, which is port what? 443. You remember?
Okay, okay, yes, that's wrong.
So that 443 is a secure port. So which means that as we requested for this information, the reply came through that port. But when you request for an information where the port is 8080, then it will come as what? Unsecured. That is why one of the advice you give to your client, the company you are going to work with, is for them to what? Not to browse or to download stuff from website that cannot be verified. If somebody come to a website that does not have this and the person perform any form of transaction and the person is eventually duped or defrauded, it is difficult for your government to trace that person because that person was not in the first place in a secure or in a secure what? Network. So that is why you advise people around you, be mindful of where you download stuff from. Some persons just go to internet, they see what they are looking for without minding where, as in the ports of that communication, because those boys will take advantage of that. Once they see that the website is not secure, they will replicate it because they know that some persons will fall victim. I hope you understand that. I just have to go there and show you these things because you need to know about them as an ethical hacker. All right, so that is for so how many protocols we have discussed so far? Let me hear from you, sir. How many protocols we have discussed? How many network protocols? 2, right?
2.
HTTP using
and HTTPS.
Good. So we are still on let's look at the next one. The next one is FTPS. Sorry, FTP rather. FTP protocol. This is another network protocol. Remember I said protocols are set of rules, right? That devices or port uses to communicate within the internet space. So the FTP means file transfer protocol. Let me write it. File transfer protocol. File what? Transfer what? Protocol. File transfer protocol. Which port does it use? It uses port 21. All these bad guys, they know all these things. And when we get to an aspect of ethical hacking, which is called reconnaissance, we should be able to write a code that tells us whether these ports are open or closed. Because once you get to that office and you run this kind of code in your virtual lab, and you are able to get a reply that says that this port that email uses, this port that is being used to all the messages that you and I are sending, text message, WhatsApp, all this message, anything that have to do with messaging, uses this port. So what they do is that when they want to hijack people message, they can check whether this port is open or closed. Once they find out that the port is closed, they run away. It's just that it's somebody that tried to break into your house, and then once the person checks the kind of key that this person used. And that is why I always tell students that the best security is the information. When you are not informed, a lot of people are falling victim on the internet space because when they hear a program like cybersecurity, they are scared with what somebody must have told them. They don't know that this is a program for everybody. Everybody in a developed country, everybody should know security tips. And I believe recently I saw that our government have started promoting, enlightening people how they can be defrauded on the internet. A lot of persons do not know a lot of things on the internet, what they should do, what they should not do. And as a result of that, they are falling victim left and right. And when you say learn cybersecurity, because of that word hacking that they are hearing, they are scared. But they will not find out the meaning of ethical. Because if they know the meaning of ethical before the hacking, they will know that it's a very good program. Because ethical hacking means what? Legal what? Penetration testing, permitted, which also means your work is just to examine whether domain or network or data can be penetrated into. And then if it's possible, you block them. So that is for that. Like I said, this is actually used for anything that has to do with, for example, can you tell me one of the platform that you are using? I know you are using it, that uses this protocol and the port 21. Let me find out whether you can mention one. Are you with me, Mr.?
Like this FTTP.
Yes. What platform do you use?
That uses FTP.
Yes, we are using it. What can you actually connect this to? Remember the way I show you that HTTP to website. Which platform can you say, okay, this is the platform that is using this protocol? Your email, your Gmail, right?
Okay, that's true. That's true. Yes.
So your Gmail, your email, they are FTP application because they are used for what? Communication, as messages. Now that is for that. Let's look at another one. Another one is SSH protocol. And the full meaning of this one is secure remote login. Secure remote login. Now, I'm still going to ask you also to tell me instances where this concept is being used. All these are the things we do every day. We just that we are not getting to know, oh, so these are what are happening at the background. Now, this one uses port 22. This one uses port 22. So can you give me a practical example, just like the way we mentioned Gmail now? Can you mention one activity that happened that you feel that this is what is verifying it on the internet?
SSH.
Yes, the SSH, yes, the secure remote login. You know that, let me help you out because of time. You know that you should know that there is always a system, there's always a protocol that verify people password. Hope you are aware on the internet.
Yes.
That's the reason why each time, forget about the developer that program it. If what the developer program, if there is no set out rule to drive it, it will not work. All right. So the internet itself as a network has in place a rule, a protocol that if you create a password and someone else is trying to use that password, there is a protocol, there is a port that will check it. And that is what the SSH, secure remote login. So this one is the one that ensures that whether you want to log into your bank account, your bank app, whatever, so there is a protocol in the network that ensure that what all the logins are secure. So that is one protocol. I hope that is also clear. Do you have any
Yeah,
questions?
it's clear now.
Okay, it's good. Let's
No,
look at
no, no question.
next one. Telnet. So we have this also called what? Telnet. So the Telnet is an abbreviation of what? Telecommunication network. The Telnet is an abbreviation of what? Telecommunication what? Network. So this one, let me just briefly explain it for clarity purpose. This one is remote login, correct? Yeah, remote login without encryption. Without encryption. And it uses port 23. So there are two topics that we are learning at the same time. We are learning the protocol. We are also learning what internet, what port, because we have about 335 ports in the internet space. I think that's the network. I think I explained that to you before. So out of this, there's no way we can learn all of them. We just have to focus on the one that matters to us, the ones that we need to ensure that they are always secure, because we understand the kind of information that flows through them, just like the way I'm breaking them down for you. So this one is the one that assesses, this is the protocol that check the remote login without what? Encryption. The word encryption is a security terminology. That means when something is what? Is coded, when something is locked. So when we say without encryption, so even though it is not locked, this protocol still allow it to be what? To log in to be secure. So we have the next one, which is DNS. So DNS means what? Domain name system. Let me write it. Domain name system. Sometimes some persons will describe it as what? Domain name server. So this one uses port 53. Port 53. So what is the work of this? This converts domain name into IP address. So it converts domain name into IP address. It converts what? Domain name into what? IP address. Are you with me? Now, that is why, do you know that every website has an IP address, and you can use that IP address to log in instead of you say www. That IP address that we have discussed that starts with 192.168.probably0.1 and so on. Now, somebody can give you that IP address as a way of locating them on a website, on the internet, instead of giving you www. So it is this DNS that is what, instead of giving you that code, because a lot of users cannot interpret it. They can make mistake in even typing it. So this DNS is what converts it into what? A readable name or word or an address that somebody can easily pronounce, like www dots. All right. So, and it uses the port what? 53. Right. So we have the which other one again that I want to discuss here. So we have so I say DNS is what? Domain name system. And then we have a DCHP. That's another protocol, DCHP, correct? DHCP rather. And what is the full meaning of this? This is called dynamic. This is called dynamic hosts configuration. Dynamic host configuration protocol. Dynamic host configuration protocol. All right. So, and this one uses ports. It uses port 67/68. So it varies. Sometimes it can take 67. Sometimes it can take 68. All right. So we are still on the protocol and the ports. So we have a POP, let's say 3, which means post office protocol. Post office protocol. And this one uses port 110. Using port 110. All right. So we have discussed the main port protocol, and their ports. Any questions so far before we look at the next subtopic?
This POP3.
Yeah.
How do you use this one?
Yeah, this is as the name implies, post office protocol. Is you know that we have post offices. You understand? We have post offices. We are trying to virtualize it. So this one too is falls under messaging, but not like the Gmail messaging. So it's an internet protocol. So even though it's not fully used, it's a protocol. Like I said, there are a lot of them, up to about 60-something thousand, but we cannot start discussing all of them. So I just want you to know that we have this as basic knowledge we need to have as cyber security, particularly going into ethical hacking. Okay, so if there's no question again, we look at common network attack. Let me see whether that topic is part of what. I just want to make sure that we touch what we need to touch. Okay. Okay, I think so there's actually a concept that we need to understand. So we have what we call, let me see where I'll pick it from. We have what we call OC, which means open system interconnection. Open system interconnection. So we need to know what is this. It's very important because we want to talk about the TCP and UDP here. So it's just like the backbone of the network, just like when they wanted to establish the internet. In your house now, when the electrician wants to network or probably wire your house, they will run some main cable, and then from that main cable, other will be tapping from that. So we want to relate that concept into networking. So we have some very fundamental or basic or foundation of network that we want to look at, that is now further broken down into some of these things we are discussing. So this aspect is very important to us. So let me just define it. Model, sorry. Let me just, I believe you can still see it there. Quickly tap out. So model explain. In other words, this OC model explain. Let's look at the concept. Explains how data. So that is what we want to understand when it comes to, we want to see how data moves from one computer to another through 7 layers. And that is what this topic OC want to expose us to. I said what? I explain how data moves from one computer to another, from one computer to another through 7 layers. Through 7 layers. So we are going to be taking these layers. We are taking them from the top. So we have you can write it in form of a table so that we can break it down better. Let me expand this. So we have the first field, let's say layer, and then let me take it like this. The name, then example. In this way, enable us to understand what we are saying. So under the layer 7, I'll go to the next. Under the layer 7, we have application layer. All the apps that we run. Let me see if I can shift this. You have the application layer under the layer 7. Then example is like your browser. I think this will really explain it for us, but example is your browser. So we should know that, like I said, the essence of us understanding this OC, Open System Interconnection Model, is for us to know different layers that enhances data movement from one point to another. And we are saying that on the internet network, there is a layer 7. And on that layer 7, that is where you have application. An example of it is what? Browser. Application transfer data from one point to another. Let's look at layer 6, because we're looking at 7 layers. Under layer 6, what do we have there? We have presentations. We have presentations. We have presentation. Example of it is what? Encryption. Encryption. So this is where, locking some file comes in. We have encryption. That is layer 6. Then we have layer 5. Under layer 5, we have session. Most of these things, you may not understand them until you are a developer. Sessions, if you are creating a website like form, form have different sessions. You log in this, maybe the first phase of the form is just for you to enter your name, your ID, then takes you to another interface where you upload your picture. It takes you, and all of this we submit to only one table at the back end. So which means that other information in between will be stored in sections. So that the browser can easily access them from without contacting probably the back end. So we have session, that is where you have login, like I just mentioned. We have login session. Then we have layer 4. Layer 4 is where we have the transport. Here we have the transport. Then good, this is where I'm going. So under the transport, we now have the TCP and the UDP. So we are going to that will form the closing part of tonight, because we are going to expatiate on that TCP and UDP. But I just wanted you to know which layer are we deriving this concept from. If not, I will have just gone straight to discussing what is TCP when it comes to networking and what is UDP and their advantages. So you can see that TCP and UDP, they are in charge of transportation of data. So which means that for data to be able to move from one point to another, something must transport it. So when you are transporting it, one focuses on something while the other one focuses. So it is the mode, the TCP and the UDP, they are two different modes of data transportation within the network. So we're still going to expand on that. What I'm actually looking for in this 5, 6 layer, 7 layer is just this TCP, but let me just complete it. So the next layer is layer 5, which is what did I put there as layer 5? Okay, sorry, layer 4. We are coming from up. Good. This one should be layer 3 because we are coming from the top. So layer 3 is network. So you can see where network is coming in. Then under network, that is where you have IP address. Then layer 2. Then under layer 2, that's where we have data link. And then example of it, that's where you have the MAC address that we discussed, MAC address. And then of course, the layer 1 is physical. And what is that physical? Let me see whether you can give me this. Layer 1 is physical. You know, we're talking about, we are breaking down network into 7 layers. So please try and know these layers. So what do you think would be the physical layer of network?
The physical layer of network. That should be the outer part, like, for example, cables.
Good.
Let's say cable.
That's so good. Cables. That is the outer, that is the physical part. So it's just for you to understand these 7 layers. So, but like I said, I just have to go this trend because I'm looking for, this is what I want to close with. No matter how you want to go into ethical hacking, you must understand this. Because these guys understand the transportation layer. That is where, if they can hijack it, a lot of information can be stolen on the internet. And that is the reason why I want to discuss that this TCP. So let me just quickly summarize the TCP because of time, because I have a lot of definitions here. So I will just explain later, you make note from it. So but let's look at the full meaning at least. Let's have the full meaning. The full meaning itself has even given us a kind of a clue to what it is. So transmission. So the TCP means transmission control protocol. Transmission control protocol. That is the TCP. So how do we define it? Okay, let me just say, just to complete their full meaning first. And UDP means user datagram protocol. So let's get the full meaning cleared first. So what's in summary, what we achieve with it? They are two communication. So if you are working with MTN, Glo, those they are networking, network administrator, they understand all this. The communication, and every networking engineer knows all this that we're talking about, not just the internet. Communication protocols. use, I'm just trying to give you a summary, to send data over the network, over a network. Simple as that. So in case you are asked, what do we mean by TCP and UDP? We can say that these are the two what? Network transportation what? Medium. All right? Because it comes under that layer of what? Moving of data, transportation of data. Send data over a network. So which means that there's no way it is possible for me to send information from my system to your system, either via local area network or any of those networks that we have discussed, that's this layer, transportation layer, which is the TCP and the UDP, will not involve. I hope you are following. So at this point, let me just zero on each of them and expatiate more. TCP. So the TCP is a connection-oriented protocol that ensures data is delivered accurately. I said what? A TCP, take it down because of time, trying to so that I can explain the other one very well before the time elapses. So you just make your notes. I said TCP is a connection-oriented protocol that ensures data is delivered accurately. So what you have to underline there, ensure data is delivered what? Accurately. That is what is going to differentiate it from what? UDP. And that is what will determine any network company or individual that want to establish network infrastructure. We know which of these, if their priority is what? Accurate data delivery. You already know, you have already know the what? The transportation model they are going to use. That's why I'm asking to underline that, please. I say what? Deliver accurately, comma, completely. These are the keywords that describe or that distinguishes the UDP, sorry, the TCP from what? The UDP. All right, completely and in the correct order. So let's quickly look at some of the characteristics of what? The TCP. That will further explain to us the advantages of using this what? Method. All right, so number one is that, remember that what? Is connection-oriented what? Oriented network establishes a connection before sending data. You see it now? It will establish a network before sending the data. So let's say, for example, now this is system A, and I'm sending a message from here. So the reason why it's going to be that accurate and make sure that nothing is missing is that before it sends the data, it will first of all contact and establish a connection. And in that process, the connection can be strong. So which means that if the connection is not strong, then it will not even transfer. But in the case of UDP, it's faster, but it does not establish the connection. So in between, so information will have been sent before in the process discover that what? There is no what? Strong net connection to allow you to pass. So in between, some things will filter away. And then there will be loss of what? Transaction. So let's still continue, you get to know. So perform error checking and recovering transmitted or retransmit lost package. So once there is a network issue, it will what? Transmit. It will retransmit those ones that will have maybe in the process network drop. You know, like sometimes when it happens, when you are transacting between money between one bank, maybe POS, and then you will not have issue of the money did not get to where it's supposed to go, and the POS person will tell you that no, I have to, I cannot release the cash because the money has left my account, but the other person that's supposed to receive it have not seen the money. So at the end of the day now, if I ask you now, what type of network do you think was established that is leading to all this loss of transaction?
That is
The UDP.
UDP.
That's UDP.
UDP, yes. Because the TCP will
We
take it
established
until it gets to the destination.
good, and we establish a network connection to make sure that, okay, there's a contact. Okay, I've connected to this place now. Now I can send the data. But the other one would not even mind that. We just start sending data without minding whether
Okay.
what connection or not. Are you with me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we are still trying to look at some of the characteristics. So packet arrive in the correct order. Packet, I don't know if I've discussed it with this class. When information are transmitted on the internet, they are not transmitted as in bits. They are transmitted as packets. So if I send you a mail, right, the whole information does not come to you one. It will come as a packet. You know, if somebody send you a parcel, it's always wrapped, right? It's always wrapped. All the things are inside. Then when it gets to you, you will now unpack it and start looking at what came with the parcel. That is how it is. So when somebody sends you a mail, those content do not come to you individually. They come as a packet. And that is why these bad guys understand. So what they hijack is the data packet. So when they hijack the data packet, when they open it, they see those valuable information, and then they will use it to launch attack. But we are now wiser than them. So what we do is that before we send information, we cipher them. That is what we encrypt them. So even if they hijack the packet, by the time they open the packet, the information there will be what? Will not be readable. To just be a kind of a collection of letters and some things that are not the real person. Because what they are looking for is to grab that message you are sending so that your password can be what? Decoded. But when the password is ciphered, when the password is encrypted, then they hijack it. But when they open it, that is not the real password. So it makes no sense. I don't know if you are getting what I'm saying. So we need to understand that information travels on the internet in form of what? Packet. So now, so I will connect it to that information that says that what? Packet arrives in what? In the correct order. All right. They're slower than UDP. You see one of the factor here. Why you will see some network, they say my network is very fast. They will go and establish what? UDP. Just because they want to entice customer. The day there is network breakdown, all their customer will be complaining, I sent money, this one. I've had situation whereby you go to some bank, as you are there to complain about your issue, someone else is saying the same issue, everybody is saying that their money got hung here and there because they are trying to see that their bank transfer is faster than other banks as a way of trying to woo them to their database. But and that will now make them to go and establish what? UDP instead of TCP. Though it will be faster, but look at those disadvantages. So let's look at it. I say what? One of the characteristics of the TCP is that slower than what? UDP because of this reliability feature. That's the reason why it's slow, because a lot of verifications are taking place that will ensure that the data packet arrives correctly and completely. I hope I'm making sense. Please let me hear from you again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So let's look at the common uses of this word TCP. What are the applications on the internet that uses this, this protocol? Web browser or web browsing. So whenever you are browsing a web, so you are using what? TCP. Email, that is what? Smart Mail Transfer Protocol, the POP3 that we mentioned, File Transfer Protocol, FTP, online banking, they all use what? This network, this mode of transportation of what? Information within the internet. So let's quickly discuss the UDP, and that is where I am going to end the journey of networking. When we get to ethical, there are still few ones that in the process with this background we can cope, or even if you can read ahead, we can go and deepen our knowledge on networking. Like I told us, all we need for cybersecurity, for ethical hacking or penetration testing, is for us to have basic knowledge of networking. You should know all these I'm discussing since will have given you an idea of, oh, so this is how information flies on the internet. So when we get to that hacking and you see us performing some tasks just to synchronize some information from target system, and when we get some code return, you will now be able to interpret what is happening. That is because most of those code, the outcome you are going to get will be presented with some of these networking terminologies. So when you do not understand this, when you get those information, you cannot interpret it. Remember that one of the career one can build in ethical hacking or cybersecurity is what? Security what? Analysis. So, and you may not be able to analyze your security where you are not conversant with this networking what? Technologies we are trying to expatiate on since. So let's quickly look at the UDP. Let's look at the UDP, and that will form the end of network fundamental. Now, the UDP, like I have said before, is user what? Datagram protocol. And how do we define it? The UDP is a connection. All right, it's a connection protocol that send data without checking whether it arrives successfully. You see the application now. Let me take it again. I said UDP is a connection protocol that sends data without checking whether it arrives successfully. So let's look at some of the characteristics. They will now compare these characteristics with the one of TCP. Connectionless. This one is connectionless. You know why? Because we say the TCP will establish what? Connection first before sending the data. But this one does not what? Establish any connection. No setup before sending. You see it now? No, that's the meaning of what? Connectionless. No setup before sending. That is the first characteristics of what? UDP. Number two, faster than TCP. I believe you can unmute and tell me why it's faster than TCP now. Can I get a response from you? Why is it faster?
Yes. It's faster because it does not bother about establishing any connection. It's just sent as it likes.
Good. Perfect. Now let's look at no guarantee of delivery. No guarantee. We are still looking at the characteristics of UDP. We have looked at the one of TCP. Now, no what? Guarantee of what? Delivery. No packet retransmission. So should in case anything drop in between, it cannot pick it and what? Retransmit it. So anything that drop, that is final. But the other one, even in the process, if there's any network maybe breaking, then it can what? Pick it up and do what? Retransmit it. So let's take note of this. Then packets may arrive out of order or be lost. Packets may arrive out of order or be lost. We need to understand that, right? Lower network overhead. Lower network overhead. Let's look at the common uses. Can you cite one of the common uses of UDP? I believe you'll be able to calculate one. You know, remember I said the common uses of what? Of TCP are what? Web browsing, right? Whenever you are browsing within a browser, that is TCP. What do you think would be the common uses of UDP? And that is where we will now end the class once we conclude this aspect. What will be the common uses of UDP, sir? Any idea?
Common use of UDP. When
Looking
it does
at,
not require
yes,
establishing of network.
and it's always very
You
fast,
don't need.
or network can break anytime.
Will I use a live video as an example?
Oh God, perfect. Live video or streaming. Have you not noticed that like the like churches, sometimes where we are doing live video transmission, the network is fast. I mean, we are using what? UDP, but it will not, why it is fast? Because it's not establishing what? Connection.
Network.
But that is why you notice that once there is any slant what? Disconnection, everything shut down. Even this Zoom that we are using now is part of live what? Streaming. So you see that once there is wave, once the weather change, now anything happen now, we just lose network. At times we say, well, we cannot. There are so many classes at times that I will not be able to connect, or somebody will say is not able to connect. Even you were having issue of network the other day, just because of what? The network transportation layer that you are in. Online gaming, voice call, video conferencing, DNS lookups, all these uses what? UDP. Any question? I think we have done justice to what you need to know. As somebody about networking, somebody who wants to go into ethical hacking. So which means that in our next class, we are going to start proper introduction to ethical hacking. But the first thing we will ensure is to set up, once I'm done with the introduction aspect, we will learn how to set up a virtual lab, because that is one of the criteria for you to say you want to perform penetration testing. No interview on ethical hacking will go that if you tell them you don't know how to set up a virtual lab, it's a failure on its own. So we're going to set up the next class is very important. I encourage everyone to be in that class. In fact, if you miss that class, it's as good as you are not starting the ethical hacking very well, because we are going to, there are some software I'm going to send to us. I think I need to upload it to my Google Drive and send us the link to download them. Make sure you keep reminding me in the group. I have them in our laptop before the next class, because what I'm going to do is that when we get to the aspect of setting up the virtual lab, we are going to learn how to install those softwares. Then once we have been able to set up a virtual lab, before we can start learning those scripting language, because we need to be practicalizing the Python and the Bash. So it's not going to be theoretical. It's something that we need to have a virtual lab running that we can be using to master each of these language. We need to have even our Kali Linux installed before we can start looking at the understanding them properly. Any question?
No question. No question.
Okay, so thank you for joining. See you next class.